On behalf of my Township Council colleagues, partners at the Board of Education, and the Union County Freeholder Board, I welcome you to the Township of Berkeley Heights. I would like to take a few moments to acknowledge our dignitaries, if you would just wave so folks know who you are. Attorney General Gerber Graywall, Senator Joe Cryan, Assemblywoman Joanne Downey, Assemblyman Gordon Johnson, Assemblywoman Lisa Swain, Assemblyman Chris Tolley, Assemblyman Benji Wimberly, Assemblywoman Linda Carter, Councilman Alvaro Medeiros, Councilwoman Susan Pogue, Councilman Stephen Yellen, Councilman Manny Kudo, School Board President Doug Reinstein, School Board Member Chris Riley, School Board Member Dr. Jared Crescenino, School Board Member Dennis Smalley, School Board Member Robert Singh-Cooley. On a day that we are discussing the critical issue of public safety, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the work that our own police department and Board of Education does on a daily basis to keep Berkeley Heights schools safe and our community safe. I have been fortunate to participate in founding the Say Hello campaign in Berkeley Heights as part of our local Sandy Hook Promise program. In that role, and as a mother of two, one of whom attends school right here at Governor Livingston High School, Governor Murphy, I thank you. I thank you for fighting to ensure New Jersey leads the way in sensible gun safety laws, mental health programming, and suicide education and prevention. So now, it is my honor to introduce a remarkable member of our community. Her accomplishments have made our township proud, both as a recent graduate of Governor Livingston High School and as a member of our local Sandy Hook Promise organization. Please welcome an extraordinary young woman, Katie Zimmerman.
Hello, my name is Katie Zimmerman, and I am a member of the Governor Livingston High School graduating class of 2018. I first became involved in the movement for gun violence prevention after my close family friend, a 14-year-old former Mountainside resident, survived the horrific shooting in Parkland, Florida. After hearing her story, I was motivated to become an advocate for gun reform and encourage my elected officials to push for common sense gun safety laws. In response to the Parkland shooting, Governor Livingston students organized a walkout to show our support and solidarity to our peers in Parkland. I aided in spreading the word and spoke at the walkout to energize my classmates about the importance of ending gun violence in our communities. In the following months, I worked with fellow students in New Jersey and New York City to organize the New York Die-In, a rally and demonstration for gun reform that took place in New York City on the anniversary of the tragic Pulse nightclub shooting. I also coordinated with other gun reform and nonpartisan political groups, including March for Our Lives, to advocate for stronger gun laws. Thanks to the help of our administration, students throughout the Berkeley Heights school system and I had the opportunity to speak with our state representative, Senator Kaine, about the importance of gun reform and the New Jersey government implementing stronger policies to keep our communities safe. I also have had the privilege to witness and learn from the hard work of various groups who, for years, have pushed for gun safety not only in our own community, but also in our state and nation. In 2015, Berkeley Heights citizens worked with others in neighboring towns to start the Moms Demand Action chapter in Union County. In 2016, school district and town leaders began working with local Sandy Hook Promise representatives to bring the organization's life-saving programs to our school. Through our advocacy, our local leaders, like Mayor Devaney, have remained dedicated to these programs and crossed party lines to ensure that they are implemented into our school district. Similarly, last year, Mayor Woodruff declared June 2nd, 2018 to be National Gun Violence Prevention Day in Berkeley Heights. On this day, he encouraged all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Today, Governor Murphy will sign into law his Gun Safety Package 2.0. Signing this package at Governor Livingston High School is a testament to the tireless work that advocates have done to bring our legislatures and local officials to combat gun violence in New Jersey. This package of common sense gun safety laws proves that together we can enact change and drive gun reforms that make our communities safe for all. And now, without further ado, I introduce to you Governor Murphy.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you. I got the, thank you all. Thank you. You talk about a short straw having to speak after Katie. More on her in a moment. But good afternoon, everybody. It is an honor to be here in Berkeley Heights, and in particular at Governor Livingston High School, home of the Highlanders. So let's hear it for our host who hosts us today. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor, for your welcoming us to this wonderful and close-knit community. I also want to acknowledge your extraordinary members of Town Council, School Board President, members of the board. To each and every one of you, thank you so much for welcoming us so graciously, Angie, and the whole team into your great community, into this school. And thank you, Katie Zimmerman, for your tremendous introduction, and far more importantly, for your commitment and advocacy for the common sense gun laws we know will keep communities safe. Let's get it up for Katie one more time. As you heard, you were a student leader here at Governor Livingston, and as you are now at Elon University, and I hope you're a rising sophomore, by the way, and I hope in your future, you will remain, and we know you will, a leader. It has taken Katie's generation to really open the eyes of those of us in public office to the need to take on the issue of gun safety with greater resolve. Yours, Katie, is the generation of active shooter drills. And the goal of our administration and the legislators with us today is to ensure that yours is the last generation to have to do this as well. Like I know all of us up here and so many in this room, you don't go through life by yourself. It takes a village, and most importantly, it takes a family. And Katie's mom, Suzanne, and her sisters, Jill and Allie, are with us today. So to the whole team, we thank you as Team Zimmerman for being with us. I'm also, I'm also honored to be joined by my esteemed colleague, Attorney General Gurbir Grewal, who has led our administration's efforts to take on the gun lobby and the bad actors across the country who try to make end runs around our gun safety laws. I'm also honored to be standing alongside Senator Joe Cryan, Assembly Members Joanne Downey and Chris Tully. Gordon Johnson is not here. Gordon, come on down, man. Let's go. Oh, just fix your tie first. As well as Coach Benji Wimberly, Lisa Swain, and Linda Carter. Thank you all for being here today, and in particular to the sponsors and leaders. I salute you for this latest round of legislation. Last year, I proudly signed in, by the way, Gordon, most people clip those things on. The fact that you tie it on is really impressive. Okay, thank you. Last year, I proudly signed into law 7 measures, many of them bills vetoed by my predecessor, that reinstated New Jersey as a leader nationwide in the fight for common sense gun safety. Just days after last October's tragic hate-fueled shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, we called for needed reforms to crack down even harder on the gun trafficking, to keep guns out of the wrong hands, and to restart the effort to get smart gun technologies in the market. And today I am proud to sign my name to these measures. Angie, just a quick question. I assume that it was not coordinated with the warmest day of the year for no air conditioning. I just want to make sure you're not, this is like a baptism by fire, literally. Oh, Lord. So, just got to get that off my chest. It's about 5,000 degrees up here, by the way. So seriously, on smart guns, our action today will help speed the development and marketability of these personalized, and that's the word folks use now, personalized firearms. Guns that can be only fired by their rightful and licensed owner. Everybody get that? That's a really important point. Our law will require firearms dealers to offer at least one smart gun for sale once that gun has been approved for sale by a newly created commission. It closes a loophole in our prior law that led to threatened boycotts of any manufacturer working on smart gun technology and had the unintended consequence of stifling development. Now we hope to jumpstart smart gun R&D and see these firearms finally hit the market. The other bills that I'm signing today will give the Attorney General and law enforcement, from state police, by the way, to local police, new tools to go after gun traffickers buying guns in states with loose laws and selling them on our streets, which is a phenomenon we cannot ignore. We will expand the list of crimes that result in a criminal prohibition against owning a gun in New Jersey, and make it a crime for people who are disqualified from owning guns to solicit a licensed dealer or an individual to sell them a gun. But we also remain cognizant that suicide remains a leading cause of firearm death in New Jersey. And so we're establishing a new partnership between the Attorney General's office and the Department of Health that will work to bring firearms dealers into our suicide prevention efforts. And I am grateful to the legislators both standing up here with me in the audience and beyond, and I thank their colleagues who supported them with us today or not with us today. In particular, I'm also grateful to Senate Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg and Assembly Majority Leader Lou Greenwald for their continued leadership in getting these bills passed. I also want to take a second and thank the terrific staff who did equally tremendous work. From our administration, Chief Counsel Matt Plotkin, Deputy Chief Counsel Paramel Garg, Associate Counsel Justin Dews, Senior Advisor on Firearms, he's in seat 1B, Bill Kastner. Bill, great to have you, and thank you for everything. Assistant, where would it be without Bill? Assistant Attorney General Jeremy Feigenbaum. Jeremy, where'd you go? You were with us. Jeremy's in the back. And the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Attorney General, Steve Finkel. Is Steve with us? Steve is not with us. And from the legislature, Assembly Democratic Office General Counsel Brian Quigley, Senator Weinberg's Legislative Director Shane Mitchell, and Jen Lehman, Senior Advisor to Majority Leader Greenwald. And of course, we cannot go on without thanking all the advocates and organizations whose support is invaluable. The T-shirts are everywhere today, as they are in most days. So thank you to the moms, Brady, other organizations for all you do. We could not do this, literally could not do this without you, in Union County and beyond. We all take great pride in having some of the toughest gun laws in the country. We see the results of that by having among the lowest rates of gun-related deaths in the entire nation. With every step, we are proving that common sense gun safety laws work. They show how we can come together to make them work. At the same time, we know we still have more work to do. We must take the common sense step of comprehensive ammunition reform, requiring a photo ID. Amen. Three parts of the step that we desperately need. It requires a photo ID to buy ammunition. The sales are digitized, and all of the sales are reported to the state police. It feels like a fairly simple, straightforward series of steps. As Bill Kastner reminds me, a gun without ammunition is a paperweight. So we need to put the same veracity into monitoring ammunition as we do in monitoring gun sales. The bill has already passed the Assembly. There's absolutely no reason for it not to be put for a vote in the Senate, where we know it will pass. And we must bring New Jersey's gun licensing fees into the 21st century. I have to reiterate this. I've tried now twice, and we've not scaled this mountain yet. Please help me get there. Our gun fees have not changed since 1966. Angie, I did some research. A dog license, I have 2 dogs, like nothing against dogs, in Berkeley Heights starts at $15. You give discounts to cats. Cats are $10. The cost of a permit to buy a handgun, $2. Come on, that makes no sense. So again, I urge the Senate President to put these measures up in the Senate. The time is now. But even though we have more work to do, we must take great pride in what we are doing today. These new laws will continue to send the message that we take gun safety and the safety of our communities seriously in New Jersey. So thank you all again for being here. It is now my great honor to introduce an extraordinary colleague, the Attorney General of the great state of New Jersey. Please help me welcome Governor Graywall.
Good afternoon, everyone. Last October, in the wake of the tragic mass shooting at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Governor Murphy and I pledged to redouble our efforts to combat the epidemic of gun violence, an epidemic that has taken far too many lives, an epidemic that has shattered far too many families, and an epidemic that has left far too many communities in mourning. And in particular, at that time, we pledged our support for Gun Safety Package 2.0, a series of bills that would help law enforcement keep guns out of the hands of dangerous criminals, and that would also, among other things, promote the development of smart or personalized guns. While there is more work to be done, today Governor Murphy is delivering on that promise, on that pledge, by signing these bills into law. And as New Jersey's chief law enforcement officer, I know firsthand how important firearm safety laws are, because each time the legislature passes a new bill and Governor Murphy signs it into law, law enforcement gains new tools. We gain new tools to do our jobs to protect the public. This isn't abstract. We've seen this happen on the ground. In 2018, when Governor Murphy signed a number of critical firearm safety bills into law, bills that banned ghost guns, bills that banned untraceable guns that felons could make at home with 3D printers, and bills that banned large capacity magazines or LCMs that carry more than 10 rounds of ammunition, we use those laws since their passage. And because of those tools, when a Texas company promised to publicly release files that would allow anyone, including terrorists, felons, and domestic abusers, to create a firearm at home using a 3D printer, we were able to obtain a legal order to halt the release of those files, ensuring that additional illegal firearms would not end up on our streets. Those new tools also allowed us to stop and arrest traffickers who were bringing into this state ghost gun AR-15 style assault rifles, guns that were unregistered, guns that were unserialized. And just last month, bolstered by our new LCM laws, we sued a Nevada-based company for selling not only 30-round magazines into this state, but also 100-round magazines. And although that lawsuit is ongoing, I'm happy to report that that company has agreed to stop LCM sales into New Jersey pending the outcome of that case. With all of these actions, and so many more, we're showing that when we get a new tool in the fight against gun violence, we will use it. That we're not afraid to use our authority against gun manufacturers, against gun distributors, or traffickers that violate our laws. Because public safety and law enforcement safety deserve nothing less. And with this new legislation that Governor Murphy is signing today, we're ensuring that law enforcement gets more tools to do just that, to keep guns out of the hands of criminals, to combat illegal trafficking, and importantly, to keep our communities and our law enforcement officers safe. So I want to thank all those responsible for these new bills. I'd like to thank the bill's sponsors, the legislators who are here and who could not make it here this morning. I also want to thank all the gun safety advocate groups who are present here this morning, who have fought tirelessly to keep New Jersey residents safe. And I especially want to thank Governor Murphy for his unwavering support and commitment on this issue and to public safety. Governor, thank you.
Thank you. There is no more potent leader in the fight and the cause for common sense gun safety than the Attorney General. So thank you, Grabeer, for everything you do. I don't mean just in New Jersey, I mean in the United States of America. So it takes a village. As good an idea as we may have and our teams may have, the best, the lasting solutions in this state, like any other, get there when you come together as a community. And in particular, that means the legislature. And up now, as of today, we'll have signed well into 300 and something bills. We find common ground all the time, but most importantly on matters of public safety. And our next speaker has served in both chambers, and importantly, and this is particularly important, as he's run a political party, but most importantly, he was the sheriff of this great county. He understands this from every perspective. It's my great honor to bring up for a few words Senator Joe Cryan.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty proud of Governor Phil Murphy today. How do you feel? Governor, thank you for your leadership. And I'm proud to stand here with an Attorney General who has a vision to see far beyond New Jersey's borders and has become a national leader. General, thank you for all you've done on gun violence. Thank you very much. I want to thank my colleagues who are behind me and in front of me. And I want to take a moment in particular to thank Katie. I thought her speech was amazing. What'd you guys think? She was great. Katie, great job. And in my own office, I want to take a moment and thank somebody who's joining us today. He's an intern this year, but he helped us last year organize the March of Our Lives event in the Township of Union. He did such a great job. He's been an advocate and a voice for us. We've watched young people grow and find their voices, and I want to recognize Colin Sumner over there. Colin, good job by you. I have two others to thank, and then I'll be brief, but I got to tell you just got to love the moms in the red shirts. Moms, thanks for everything. Thanks for all of it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I know the governor thanked his staff, but there's someone on his staff who I find to be a remarkable leader. I've known him for years. I find him passionate, but particularly about this issue. He's a brilliant leader and a brilliant man who's made this gun change advocacy to be part of his life. He's made a real difference in the state of New Jersey on many issues, but this one in particular. Bill Costner, you do a fantastic job. Really, thank you. Thank you. So the bill I have is the bill for suicide prevention. And the story I wanted to tell you was about a dozen or so years ago. I was thinking about it on the ride up, but I don't remember exactly when. I was sitting in beautiful Trenton. By the way, Mayor, thank you for hosting us, and your council, and your very frugal Board of Education. All right? I was sitting in a room, and it was just about this time. It was in July, if I remember right, and it was at a Capital Budgeting Commission, where if you want to live through boring hearings that are focused on numbers and projects and things that you wouldn't wish on many, I'll tell you that. I was in this budgeting commission meeting, and my phone started, as many of you do when the meeting, you put it on vibrate, and the phone started vibrating. And it kept vibrating. You know, you put it down because you want to pay attention to the person who's speaking, but you realize after a little while you better take a look. And someone who I was a coworker with at the time had decided to take his legally purchased weapon, his firearm, his .38, and use it to end his life. He lived in Fanwood and immediately jumped out, obviously out of the hearing, and came there and was still there to have an opportunity to see his body and to see the devastation caused by that firearm. I'm going to tell you that over the course, and we look at numbers, 22,000 deaths a year by suicide, 59 a day. And we know, for example, that people who use a firearm to take their life or think about it have an 85% chance of actually succeeding in that. If people choose to end their life by any other means, their success rate, so to speak, in a very terrible term, is about 5%. So we got to this home, saw the devastation, and waited as his family arrived. And for some of you who may have lived through this, you know the screams, and you know the horror. And then over the next couple days to talk to his coworkers a couple of whom were with him just the night before and didn't have any sense of any sort of problem, of any sort of issue, from a softball game to a few social moments afterwards at the local pub. No issue whatsoever. And we know that when it comes to suicide prevention, that survivors tell us that there's generally about a 10 to 15-minute interval from the time when someone decides to end their life to the time that they actually try to do it. Part of that is why firearms are so successful. I want you to think about that for a minute. So the bill we offer today, the bill with the governor's vision and leadership and the general's help, offers only a pamphlet and an opportunity for information and for education at the time of legal purchase. It doesn't change the world. It doesn't change, it won't end the 59 deaths. It won't end the 22,000 a year. But it will, hopefully, spur for someone the moment of clarity in those 10 to 15 minutes. It will hopefully help save, as we say, one, because one's enough. And we know that today's bill, at least for me, is part of a package with these great legislators behind me that is meant to combine suicide prevention and help, again, begin to eradicate or continue the path to eradicate gun violence. But while I gave you some numbers, I want to leave you with this. The wake was closed casket because the death was too violent that someone could properly mourn. And when you waited, and we all waited, we waited a long time to have a chance to say our goodbyes. We couldn't adequately explain to family members what we thought was going on because nobody, absolutely nobody, had any answers. I haven't thought a lot about Mark in the past 10 years, I admit it. From time to time, in those moments of clarity when things happen, you still say to yourself why and how and what could he possibly be thinking? And as anyone connected with him would say, what could I have done? His mom and his sister certainly still don't have any answers, but they carry that burden every day. So it's not 59, it's not 22,000. It's really one. And the damage and the loss, in this particular case, somebody who was vibrant, somebody who could tell a joke better than I ever could, which as a politician I always wanted to be able to tell great jokes. And somebody who brought a sense of vibrancy in life to his job every day was taken from us too early. And I hope today's bill, as part of this package, helps change that. Because we all deserve to hear the jokes, to have the vibrancy, and to have every human being live their life of potential and not have 10 to 15 minutes of bad judgment change their course and our course for the days ahead. Thank you all for the leadership, and thank you for being part of it.
Thanks, buddy. God bless you. That is incredibly powerful, Joe. Thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership and sponsorship in particular of one of the very important bills that we're going to sign in a few minutes. We've got, by my count, I think 6 members of the Assembly here today, which is a pretty cool thing. I think exactly half of them are going to say a few words, and they are sponsors of some of these bills we're going to sign in a couple of minutes. And I can say wonderful things about each of the 6 of them. Our first guy up to bat is all the way in from Bergen County today. You saw him tie his own tie. He is a leader. He's a friend. Please help me welcome Assemblyman Gordon Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words here today. Governor, Attorney General, to my colleagues in the audience, I see Assemblywoman Swain, Assemblywoman Carter. I think that's it for the audience, so thank you for being here today. But in District 37 and across New Jersey, we are taking the lead in sponsoring common sense gun safety legislation, and we have acted where officials in the federal level have not. We will keep fighting to keep New Jersey's gun laws among the strictest in the nation. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland, and many other mass shootings demand that we take action, not just as elected officials, but as parents, as friends, as neighbors, and as a community. Today, I want to salute those incredible students for their advocacy and determination. Following the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida last year, it's the students who helped champion and renew a spirit of advocacy on gun safety and gun reform across this country. If you want change, folks, go to the young people. They will create change. You right? All right. Yeah. Their message is powerful and unmistakable. If you want to see change, go to young people and see the world through their eyes. We can't allow another generation to fear for their safety in our schools and in any classroom. It's just unacceptable. Last year, in the United States and abroad, we also experienced horrific gun violence in our places of worship and centers of faith. In the New Jersey Assembly, we've advanced legislation to create stronger penalties and deterrents to further protect our communities of faith from gun violence, and we'll continue to work in Trenton to do just that. In 2019, we can't allow anyone to be targeted because of their faith, their race, their gender, their orientation, or who they are, or what their dreams are. We are all in this together. Oh, applause. Okay. I'm a former Bergen County Sheriff, and I know that health, safety, and well-being in the community is top priority. When it comes to protecting our children and ensuring the safety of our residents in New Jersey, we'll act to continue to take meaningful steps to ensure public safety. Thank you. Thank you.
I neglected to mention that Gordon is also, as he just mentioned, a former sheriff. So to have a couple of sheriffs up here adds even more weight to the legislative leadership. Gordon, thank you. Thank you. Please help me welcome a friend, a fellow Monmouth County resident. I see her all the time, and she's been a passionate common sense gun safety advocate. Please help me welcome Assemblywoman Joanne Downey.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everyone feels as warm as I do. But you know what? I do have a warm feeling. It's really nice to be here, and I want to thank everybody. I don't want to go through everyone's thanked everyone, but I want to thank everyone again behind me, everyone in the Senate, everyone, all my Assembly colleagues. I want to thank the Governor and the Attorney General, everyone here, all the Moms Demand Action, HPAE, the NJEA, all the great people who have been behind common sense gun legislation. And I want to thank Katie Zimmerman for your wonderful speech. That was amazing. Again, I agree. Our future are the young people who are going to do more to push us. And one of the things that I really want to say is one of the sponsors of the bill that has to, the sponsor of the bill, it has to do with the informational material to prevent suicide, hoping that we reach out to some people and get them at the time of the sale, right? Hopefully we can do that and help a little bit. I have an MSW as well as being an attorney, so I know how mental health issues affect people and how strong they can overcome so many other things that make sense. So one of the things that maybe it makes you do is like stop for a moment if you get that material, just to take a moment and maybe to reach out to somebody, right? So the thing is, that's also the daughter of a state trooper. I've learned that there are dangers of firearm abuse. And we see in all these other gun bills that we have here, lots of things that we've been trying to do to help to reduce that and to make us all safe. Because as a mother of two little girls who are 8 and 9.5, I want to feel safe for them. I want to feel like they can go to school, they can go out in their community, they can be anywhere out there, and I don't have to worry that they're going to be in a situation where somebody, either because they have a suicidal tendency or something else is going on, that they get caught in the crossfire, or any of our children. So I want to thank again everyone here, and I know that this bill is one step forward to making sure that we're keeping our society free from the tyranny that is gun violence. It's not about having them safely. My dad was in the state police. It's about the violence. So thank you again, everyone, and I'm looking forward to see you on many more of these. So thank you again, Governor, for your leadership.
I I was going to give Joanne a kiss, but I was concerned I would stick to her for the rest of the afternoon, which is a far bigger concern for Joanne than for me. Man, it's warm. In fact, one thing for our brothers and sisters in the press, we're going to sign the bill, and then I'll do Q&A afterwards. I can't make all of you have to stand up for another 10 minutes or even sit through this. Joanne mentioned our brothers and sisters in labor, and I want to echo that. HPAE, NJEA, the whole family of organizations that are either purpose-built and mission-only focused on gun safety, or who do a lot of things. And gun safety is on a list of a number of initiatives. To each and every one of you, I say thank you. Our next guy is another Bergen County guy. He emanates way back from the Frank Lautenberg tree, as do I. Please help me welcome Assemblyman Chris Tully.
Thank you and good afternoon. First of all, Mayor, Council, thank you so much for opening up your community to us today. I'd like to echo the voice of gratitude to today's bill sponsors, our Attorney General and our Governor for making today possible, for making today's legislation possible, and for all they're doing to fight the epidemic of gun violence. And really, especially, I really just want to thank our advocates and Moms Demand Action, everything that you do every day to protect our communities and for our families. There's no more we could say to thank you for everything that you do. And I say families because that's really why we're here today. I know that's why I'm here, because before I came to today's signing, I said goodbye to my family and to my son, who's 2.5. And I got to leave with the peace of mind knowing that he is safe at home with his mother. And I'm not going to have that next year, because we're looking into preschools and he's going to be going to school. And my heart breaks knowing that unlike when I and many of us went to school, he's going to live in the ever-present fear of a school shooting. The scourge of school shootings and mass shootings in general is something that we are confronted with all too regularly in this country. And my son is going to be forced to grow up with active shooter drills and the fear and the dread that one day it could be his school. It is our moral obligation as legislators to stand up against gun violence. And that is why my district mate, Assemblywoman Lisa Swain, and I introduced a piece of legislation, A4449. On average, we all know 100 Americans are killed with guns and hundreds more are injured every day, and we all live in fear of that next shooting. My legislation that is being signed today establishes a crime of soliciting transfer of firearms by a disqualified person. This bill prohibits a person who is disqualified from possessing a firearm from knowingly soliciting, persuading, encouraging, or enticing a licensed gun dealer or other person to sell, give, transfer, or assign a firearm to a disqualified person. Basically, as our Attorney General so eloquently said, this represents another tool in our toolbox, as we all work together to make sure that guns do not fall into the wrong hands of those that should not have them. We must all stand strong for gun legislation and gun control regulations, because laws like this will save lives. People shouldn't have a way to work around the system and potentially harm children in our schools, worshipers in our synagogues and our churches, friends at concerts, or families at a mall. And I'm proud to stand with so many people here as a gun safety legislator, and I look forward to continuing to make the work to make our state and our nation safer. Thank you so much.
Well done. So I mentioned we're going to sign the bill, and then I'll take a few questions from the press, but I want to leave you with this. Like any serious moment, Cryan and Murphy are Irish. In the memory of your late friend Mark, I'm going to tell my favorite library joke, because we're in a library. Kid walks up to the library and says, "I'll have a quarter pounder with cheese, a large Coke, and a large fry." She says, "Young man, this is a library." He said, "Oh, excuse me, I'll have a quarter pounder with cheese, large Coke, and large fries." With that, let's go. I can't say things, so no. Yes, you good? Okay. 16, right? 16. Bear with me one sec. So the first bill I'm going to sign is Senate Bill number 101, which establishes a commission to approve personalized handguns or smart gun technology and requires firearm retailers to sell said personalized handguns. And pen number 1 goes to the woman on my right, Katie Zimmerman. Let's hear it for Katie. All right. Among the sponsors of this bill are the man to my left, Assemblyman Gordon Johnson. Let's hear it for Gordon. The man of the bow tie. Coach, Assemblyman Benji Wimberly. Coach. Congratulations. And in absentia, please help me give a shout out to Senator Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg. Can you get forward, Gordon? Do you mind? Thank you very much. Keep an eye on that pen. The second bill I'm going to sign is Senate Bill number 3897, and the synopsis is this criminalizes purchase, transfer, or possession of certain weapons and ammunition by persons convicted of certain crimes, and it establishes crime as a crime transferring or possessing firearm without a serial number. On this one, I want to give a shout out and thank her again for hosting us so graciously. Please help me salute Mayor Angie Devaney. And I'm going to jump around in the order here. Bill Castro, are you with me?
He's here.
Let's hear it for our special advisor on gun safety. This is a little bit of three-dimensional chess here, so please bear with me. The next bill I'm going to sign is Assembly Bill 4449. And the synopsis of this bill, it establishes a crime of soliciting transfer of a firearm by a disqualified person. On this bill, I'm honored to give one of its sponsors, the woman to my left, Assemblywoman Lisa Swain. Congratulations. Take the pen, skip the hug. Who can blame you? And her colleague, and we just heard from him, who spoke so eloquently. I want to thank him for his leadership, Assemblyman Chris Tully. Chris. Last but not least, certainly, Assembly Bill 3896 requires the Attorney General and the Commissioner of Health to establish suicide prevention training course and informational materials for firearm retail dealers. And we heard the two folks I'm going to give these pens to speak incredibly moving and eloquently about this. First, again, help me salute and thank Senator Joe Cryan. Assemblywoman Joanne Downey. So it is my great honor to say, and I want to thank again everybody who brought us to this day and will continue to propel the fight for common sense gun safety in the great state of New Jersey forward, to the advocates, to the legislators, to Mayor, Council, Board of Ed for hosting us, to everybody, our staffs and advisors, to everybody who is in this fight. These 4 bills are now the law of the land. Come on in, Tyler. Do you, Joanne asked a fair question. Do we want to get Chris, come on in. Thank you all. Dante?
Thank you.
Great job, everybody.
We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. So if you're saying please find your seat, we're going to get started in about 2 minutes.
One more.
No problem.
Bridget.
Hey, Bridget.
You
good?
Now I'm going in
How are
my
you?
car and putting my air conditioner up. as
Turn the
high as
music up.
Was I looking, Bridget? I don't know if I was.
Hey, guys. One more time. Want to do a shot? Tom Giordano, engineer. Honor to see you guys. Thanks so much. Stay aboard, buddy. You good?
There, I got you.
I know, it was on something else. Thank you, Governor. Thanks, man. Got it. Angie. You want to get a shot with me? Thank you, Governor, as always. You took it on your phone? Can you text me real quick, though, because I got to do the rest.
You have a phone?
My phone again.
Okay.
I saw you sitting there. Thank you, Linda. You say going closer, these poor souls.
And it's hot.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us. It means a lot. No problem. Oh, yeah. That's right, too. With my wife. Nice to see you.
We're going to start Q&A momentarily.
That's all right. We're still here. I got to do some press here. From here or from the middle? You sure? Huh?
The camera specifically requested the
But Danny, you guys agreeing to do it from here as opposed to in the middle?
Yeah, just because. No, well, you need that. You need the mic.
I just had to check to see if you have a little fan on the bottom.
Oh, Linda, take care of yourself.
Absolutely.
Bless you. Stay cool, all right? Hey, folks, so to take a couple of questions from the press, if we could sort of part the sea here.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah. My guess is it'll be off topic.
Okay. I just got questions from the judges.
Okay, no problem. Give me a second. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, how are you?
Hello, Brett. Hello, Michael. Brett, how are you? Danny, I got to just... Okay. Brett, you got a question? I mean, listen, I take advice from any number of folks in life, but at the end of the day, government decisions are taken by those in government, period. Nikita, how are you? We've had a couple of yes, the answer is yes, but strategy sessions, broad strategy discussions. No, absolutely not. This is a very typical thing that I think not just for New Jersey, but something that happens. We solicit advice from folks inside and outside of government all the time. But the important point is government decisions are made by those in government, period, and there's no exception to that. Michael.
Why do you think that this version of the smart gun bill, personalized handgun bill, will succeed where the first one did not?
I'm going to let Gerbir give us his thoughts, but the last one had the unintended consequence, which were the words that I used, which basically allowed an enormous amount of pressure on the gun manufacturers to not pursue the R&D that was necessary. I have to say, separate from this, in the coalition, the States for Gun Safety that we established last year, we're doing research on smart gun technology in New Jersey, which we're really proud of. Grabier, you want to add anything as to why this will be different?
I just think it has more guideposts in the legislation with the setting up and establishment of a commission to look into the issue, to setting laboratories in place and putting in place protocols where we could check the technology, and then putting in timeframes as to when that technology will be required of manufacturers to pursue. I think it's a more detailed bill, and it allows that those unintended consequences don't manifest, and it addresses those as well.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to come to you last because I know what you're going to ask. Hi, Mike. But I am going to come to you. I wanted the record to show. We've not made. We have a lot of bills. You probably noticed that we got a lot of bills, so we're still chopping through it. This is an anecdotal observation. This is not an empirical one, so just accept it as that. I spent a lot of as best I can on a weekend, at least for some amount of my weekend on the Jersey Shore. My colleagues tried to as well. There's no evidence whatsoever that this has held back business on the Jersey Shore. This is many folks who are in business associated with the shore will say this is among the best summers they've ever had. So knock on wood that in particular the weather stays that way. Brenda and Dustin.
There's some concern with the communities who live in the area of Zimmerman about American Dream when it is up and running in October. There still doesn't seem to be a plan to handle the traffic, either the commuting traffic around the area or the actual planes going to and from the facility.
Yeah.
The last time I asked MJ Ramsey, they're working on the plan and doing an industry study.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've got a better answer for you, Brenda, but it's a concern. It's a rightful concern. I think if all of the retail and other tenants were in on day one, and they won't be. This is like any other mall. It will like, I don't know this, but I'm sure it will open in phases. I believe if it were at capacity, there would be 16,000 employees. Never mind the people who are going to shop or go to the water park or eat or whatever. And again, that's a good thing. It's a boon. It's going to be a big employment boon for the state. But the transportation plan still lacks the clarity and the depth that we need. There's no other way to put it. And that's a work in progress. Dustin, do you have your hand up?
Yeah. What are you doing about the anticipated immigration raids, and maybe John can give an update if there is one on separate 287G issues and timeshare?
I'll defer to Grabier on that one.
So on the 287 issue, we have communicated with the two sheriffs who signed and entered into 287 agreements in that intervening period after our directive was issued last November and before it took effect, which was in fact given to them as an opportunity to unwind and reevaluate these agreements, but that intervening period was used and really in a very covert way, because I know there was media requests for information regarding those agreements, and the media was told that the agreements were not signed at this point, were being negotiated up until last month even. So we are giving those sheriffs an opportunity to present the information that we requested of them back in April, I believe, and that we reiterated in a letter, and we'll evaluate that. And if they can make their case, then we'll have further discussions with them as to whether we do approve those agreements or not. But what we wanted was that process, and they avoided that process by entering into these agreements without consulting with us.
On the broader topic, Dustin, and I want to pull you back, if I may, and put you on the spot, I just would say the combination of the raids, of which we didn't get a lot of evidence that there was a lot of action in New Jersey at least, there were some that we read about, and these horrific tweets that the president has put out to continue to try to divide us and turn part of us against the other part. I was going to ask you the rhetorical question, how many times have you been asked to go back to where you came from, a guy who grew up in Bergen County? So enough already, Mr. President. This is not American. It's not consistent with our values. It's not consistent with who we are as a nation. Enough, period, full stop. Anything you want to add to that? Amen.
I would just, as the governor said, we didn't see evidence of widespread ICE activity, coordinated raids across the state, but that's consistent with what they're doing. They're invoking fear and mistrust in communities and driving them further into the shadows, And what we're trying to do with this directive is to bring them out of the shadows and tell folks that they should feel comfortable reporting crimes to law enforcement in this state. And that's why we felt that directive was important, because those lines are being blurred. And we don't want people to suffer in silence or suffer in the darkness if they've been the victims of crime. We want them to reach out to law enforcement in this state, report crimes, so we can investigate and prosecute those responsible. So I think as far as what happened with these threatened raids, it's just part and parcel of this strategy to invoke fear and mistrust and drive people into the shadows. And if that's what they wanted to do, they succeeded.
Do you have any information from the administration indicating that there's still plans, or they can come at any time?
Nothing.
I don't have that
Nor do I.
information. Yeah.
Nor do I. I want to reiterate this last point that the General just made. The more confidence people have to step out of the shadows into the sunlight and engage with neighbors, with community leaders, with elected officials, with law enforcement, the safer the community. So this is not just because we're nice people, although I hope we are. This is about public safety. And it's why when the General announced these directives, he was surrounded and supported by the amount of chiefs of police and leadership in law enforcement that he was, because they understand that point as well. Sir, don't ever let it be said I didn't ask.
Well, just a side note, as a son of a Cuban refugee, I stand before you statements, and it makes me proud that my friends and family don't have to live in fear in New Jersey. To my question in regard to the smart gun technology, once the commission approves a gun to be sold in New Jersey, would you mandate your personal security use this firearm for yourself?
Haven't thought about it. It's a good question.
That would take the lead with smart guns.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I have not been asked that before, but I promise you I'll give it some thought. It's a good question. We'll do one more and then we got to jump here. Nikita. Listen, if you read, assuming these are in fact associated with him, some of the stuff that was said is completely and utterly unacceptable. But I have to say that's not my call. That's got to be dealt with by the elected leadership and the people of Puerto Rico. But it's pretty abhorrent, if not quite abhorrent. So we shall see. Don't get emotional about this, Brenda. I mean, I know it's important, but I'm not sure I would make that commitment. No, I want to make sure that we want as safe and as free-flowing a commuting and transportation pattern as possible. So I will not, having not been asked that question either before, I'm not going to make that commitment. Again, I want to thank the mayor who was here a minute ago. I think we lost her. The frugal Board of Ed, our hosts here at the high school, members of council, the Zimmerman family, thank you for turning out in size. The Attorney General, to all of the folks who got us to this day and who stay with us in the long struggle to achieve common sense gun safety. Thank you all. Great job.
Thanks, Tom.